In this episode, we break down the arrival of reasonable doubt and how it shook the foundation of the entire case. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end because what you're about to hear is probably going to change how you see the case. And if it doesn't, you can always leave us a comment and tell us why. We're going to pick up where we left off. Yet another major consequence of being a 911 operator or dispatcher. You're behind the scenes mostly, but sometimes you're called into court to testify, and that's what we were talking about in the last episode. So we're going to pick up where we left off from there.
So briefly, Hannah Payne was in a traffic collision. She dialed 911, waited 20 minutes. No unit had yet arrived on scene. The operator of a red Dodge Dakota blew through a stop sign, struck her vehicle, and possibly one more. She believed the operator of this vehicle was intoxicated. He decided to leave the scene with heavy front-end damage. His vehicle was heavily disabled. He would not make it far. She dialed 911. She said, I'm going to follow this guy and get the tag. The 911 dispatcher said, don't do that. She said, well, I'm just going to get the tag number, and that's all. Dispatcher did not, badger her about not following and how that's not a good idea. The dispatcher did say, we don't want you to do that and that it's not safe. And then when told to stand down, Hannah Payne said, I'm not going to not follow this person. She believed they were drunk. And even though a common person has no means of safely apprehending a drunk driver in flight, she took it upon herself to do this. On the side of the road, there's a brief engagement in which the two tussled about physically. A firearm was produced by Hannah Payne. The firearm was discharged at some point, fatally wounding the driver of the red Dodge Dakota. Hannah Payne was brought in for interrogation in which she pleaded her case to say that she basically told everything that happened. She thought that she would be exonerated by telling the truth. However, her admissions were criminal in nature, and she was subsequently charged. The 911 phone call was brought before the court because it is a business document that is self-verifying. It is an exception to the hearsay rule. Testifying on the stand is the dispatcher supervisor, and she's the supervisor of training and quality assurance or professional standards. She's being cross-examined at this point by the defense attorney, if I believe I'm correct, Drew.
Yep. Christy Sufferer is her name, or Superer, rather. So he's getting ready to play the 911 call to, quote, refresh her memory.
County 911, what's the location of your emergency? Yes, ma'am. I'm on Clark Howell and Forest Parkway, the intersection. I actually called about 20 minutes ago for an accident, and no one has shown up yet. But I am under the impression that the guy that caused the accident, who ran the red light, is drunk, and he's gotten back in his car, and he's looking like he's trying to drive away. Okay, can you get his tag number? Hold on, he's driving away. It's a red Dodge Dakota. Give me 1 second, hold on. Okay, so he is going west, down Clark Howell, down Forest Parkway. Okay, so you couldn't get a tag number? No, but I'm catching up to him right now. Okay, ma'am, we actually do not want you to chase him. We just want you to be safe. And it's I understand.
Hi, it's 100%.
I'm just get the tag number, if nothing else.
Does she understand, John?
100%. I again, I don't know if you listened last week. If you missed an episode, definitely go back and listen to that. But you should never commit yourself to 100% anything anymore, because the defense attorney at this stage of the game is he has been trying to raise the point that Hannah Payne doesn't understand the danger of chasing, following, pursuing, or whatever the semantics are that you want to use in this case. And Hannah Payne says on the phone, I understand 100%. So just if 100% is, if that's a phrase that you throw around, I encourage you to stop doing that as a person. True.
Yeah, we'll see in Hannah's testimony next week. I don't think she was answering the question that everybody can hear her answering. So in other words, when she says, we don't want you to chase, and she's like, yeah, I get that. I would never do that. But she doesn't realize what she's actually doing is chasing the person. She's just thinking, no, I'm following behind him until I can get to the tag number.
Oh.
But I am going west down Forest Parkway up to him. I mean, his radiator is busted and everything. So I honestly have no idea how he's driving the truck.
Okay.
It is a Georgia Pass. License plate is R8A as an apple 4859. Okay.
Was that,
So
If you can go back to that location where the incident happened, it's because someone is actually on the way to you guys now.
okay, well,
There's
a
a police officer there, but he is drunk. I'm sorry, I'm here to tell you, I'm not gonna follow him. Because he is driving a cause of the accident. So I can stay behind him until the officers can get to him, but until then, I'm not moving.
sorry, so
Okay. So you heard the conversation, and that appears that in that conversation, when
I have a note here. Remaining calm and not arguing is it's going to go a very, very long way with the jury. So just remain calm. Like they're doing things to try to get your goat. He's actually just trying to get to the facts, to be honest. But I think a lot of people see this a little bit differently. But if you're ever presented in this situation, you ever have to testify, don't argue. Just answer the question the best that you know how.
they're asking, did you get his tag number? What did it sound like she was doing? Did it sound like she was moving forward or running with the phone or trying to get to a car? What did it sound like?
Okay, refresh.
I sustain the objection.
In your experience as a 911 operator, when somebody's on the phone and breathing heavy or sounding as if what you just heard, in your experience, what would you conclude is going on?
I mean, I couldn't come to a conclusion. She could be outside and the wind could be blowing.
I completely agree. When he was asking that question, I'm like, yeah, I can't conclude anything from that. There's nothing to conclude. It could be anything. Go ahead, Drew.
She is answering the question exactly. He is getting frustrated because what he's trying to get her to say is, and it's truthful, does it sound to you like she stayed at the scene? Does it sound to you like she's walking to her car? Does it sound to you like, but she can't, they're just going to continue to raise the objection that we don't know what that dispatcher was thinking. So you kind of have it both ways here. Go ahead.
Is there some reason, Drew, do you think the dispatcher actually took the call as not being called to the stand? I thought about this in the past week because when you brought up the business records being exception to hearsay, I thought about it and I realized that from now on, whenever I get subpoenaed, I should just give it to my boss and I don't have to go. Is that what's the reason they don't have the actual dispatcher? I mean, if what we're doing is what we're bickering over, not what this dispatcher actually took the call said versus what someone in the professional standard thinks, someone who's likewise experienced, someone who's sets the kind of the standard for what a reasonable person in that position would do. Why didn't the defense attorney just to subpoena the actual call taker? What do you think?
I think that this varies state to state. And I think that this probably even varies case to case. I think what they're trying to say is we have all we need with this 911 call here. We just need someone to testify that says it hasn't been altered, it's kept in a computer system, and somebody that can speak on behalf of the agency to testify to that part of it. And just a little bit farther, and I'll get to you in a second, just a little bit farther beyond that is, this is how we train them to be, as opposed to having the inexperienced 911 operator who's not used to testifying, who may not be a tenured employee. And if you'll remember in the Ed Troyer case in Seattle, the King County Sheriff, I think he was King County Sheriff, they had the actual dispatcher testify. I don't think it was a dispatcher that took the call. I think it was a dispatcher that updated the call that said, this is an all call. We need help out here. The sheriff's being threatened. And they had her testify, and the defense tore her apart. So, and I understood exactly what that dispatcher was trying to say, but the way they were trying to paint it to the jury, I think this was to save the call taker. Go ahead, John.
So I understand that Miss Super is the state's witness. So why didn't the defense attorney subpoena the actual call taker, though? Like if the whole purpose of the defense is to destroy someone on the stand, why not call that person, particularly if they are not tenured, particularly if they don't have 20 years in, like Miss Super does, and then destroy that person?
I don't have the answer to that question. My guess is that this was hashed out prior to the trial. My guess is that it's a standard practice to not have the dispatcher testify. Therefore, the judge just sided with the standard practice of having, somebody. It's like like if there is a money laundering case, you're not going to have the actual bank teller testify. You're going to have whoever keeps the records testify to say, well, yeah, I know these records are intact. I understand what you're saying, that you could probably tear that dispatcher apart if you were the defense. I don't know that that's that might even be a wild card, though, because what is she going to say?
Yeah,
I mean, she might just completely say, no, listen, you can hear my voice. I totally told her not to chase.
I get what you're saying, that the risk cuts both ways. I have an alternate theory, if I may offer it.
Go for it.
Having the actual call taker would be an undue burden on the agency because they have no one to work there.
Oh, you're more than right on that. It's probably a nightmare to set up. You're probably more right than I am in this situation, like way more right, because think about having to have her come to the deposition, having to have her, you're trying to schedule around a schedule of this poor dispatcher who only, probably works 2 days, off 2 days, works 3 days, off 2 days. Like, what a nightmare.
Well, and they would have to replace someone in that chair.
Yeah,
In the
while
hospital
she's
where
working.
and it could be that a professional standards person, has a flexible enough schedule between quality assurance and training that she can go up and do this.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. They even alluded to some other guy being the custodian of records, and I don't think that he worked there anymore or something like that. So she's like in his stead almost. But that's probably what it is. They probably designate somebody to be the all-time testifier.
Like a pinch hitter.
During
Like a what?
Like a pinch hitter.
that period of time that was elapsed, is it the training that is told to say, man, do not chase? Is it told when they say you didn't get the tag? Is it training that they tell you to say, don't chase at that time?
When we find out that they are pursuing, that's when we let them know not to do it.
Okay, so when they asked, so you couldn't get the tag, and she said, kind of, no, I did. At that time, you're supposed to say, do not chase, be safe.
If she said she was following the vehicle, then yes.
Okay, and then from that point, and I don't know if you caught it, I was kind it over here. There is a gap, a significant gap of about 37 seconds. That radio contact with her and 911 is just blank. Is that the policy, just to kind of sit back and hear and wait? Or is it to go ahead and say, our policy is not to chase. Please do not chase, our policy. Or what happens? What does training teach you?
I can't say what the operator was doing. I wasn't there.
Right. I get that. But I'm telling you, he's entering reasonable doubt into that jury. That should be reasonable doubt. Like, if there's a 37-second space of no conversation and you consciously know that she's what you called chasing a minute ago, I think what we think as dispatchers, cops, whatever, she's doing 10 different other things. And she's probably not thinking, oh my God, she's still chasing her. I got to stop her from doing that. How it looks and how it sounds to the person on the phone is, well, she's not telling me. Either it's the thought it hasn't even entered her mind. She was like, from the beginning, I'm not chasing him.
I'm about to explode. So that would be, I would have to definitely, take some CBD or something before I get on the stand. But because when the defense attorney says, well, if they're for 37 seconds, something's on there, I'm like, yeah, it's called a mute button. I'm updating police officers. I'm talking to this. I'm actually handling traffic for a whole other thing because, I'm the only one that's there. So I've got to multitask while I'm doing this. I'm sorry, but that's the reality of the job. I have to be doing these other tasks. But she said it before. If you listen to part 3, part 1, she said it's our policy to tell them not to chase. I just get so fired up because I want to be in her position and give her like my fortitude that I have because I'm not actually there. But I'm like, tell him that the policy of 911 is not binding on any member of the public. And as a non-certified 911 operator, you have no ability to persuade anyone from doing anything. And there's no reason for you to be on the phone talking to someone like they're a child. Now, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You've told someone once not to do it. They're an adult. Hannah Payne, she laid it out right there. She said, I'm telling you right now. She said with great assertion, I'm not going to do this. So what are we supposed to do? Get into some kind of totally non-productive power struggle. That's what it can be so often on a 911 call, Drew, is when you're arguing with someone. It could be, it is even on non-emergency calls, people will call me because they want an answer to a question that they're not getting that answer from me. And I can easily get into it. I can sit there. I had a call last week where I could have delved into the Constitution and what it means to have civil rights. But I just said, if you want to solve this, it's going to happen another avenue. Or you just don't even handle their hypotheticals. You don't badger with them. You don't go back and forth. If we as a 911 dispatcher want to solve this problem, the thing we can do is not engage in a power struggle, not go back and forth, not badger them, because she would have been accused of being a badgering person, a badgering dispatcher under different circumstances, and listen passively and find out what the hell's going on so we can update our units. If you listen to the Monday show that I did this past week, the Atlanta Black Star did this whole piece on a case where a 911 dispatcher was peppering and barraging someone with trivial questions. So here we are at opposite ends. This defense attorney is making something out of 37 seconds of silence of passive intelligence gathering that he doesn't like, that he's seeing as a tacit approval of what's going on. And the Atlanta Black Star is taking this peppering with irrelevant questioning as badgering someone who's dialing 911. How is it that the press and the defense attorneys could take opposite situations, Drew, and find fault with 911 no matter what? Go ahead.
I do think that he is trying to get you into Hannah Payne's frame of mind, and she's saying, she's very like, if we say, well, you got to listen to what the dispatcher said. The dispatcher said, don't chase. Well, listen to what Hannah said. She said, well, I'm not going to not follow him because he's a danger to everybody else on the road. And normally we applaud people who prevent criminal behavior, essentially. So I think if you want to get literal with the dispatcher, but loosely translate what Hannah says, that's not fair to Hannah. And vice versa. If you want to get loose with what the dispatcher said and get literal with what Hannah said, that's not fair to us either. So I just think in the carriage of justice that you've got to take what both sides are saying and understand there are two sides to this story. And I think he's just trying to paint her frame of mind as, yeah, I'm not chasing him. I'm just following him because he's a danger and I'm trying to get his tag. And, and once he got the tag, obviously the dispatcher knew that she was close enough to get the tag. And that's when she told her, hey, go back.
Well, okay. So there's objective reality, right? So let's just take a hint from Ayn Rand, and there's some objective reality, right? There's a vehicle traveling westbound towards Riverdale Road. Hannah Payne is in a vehicle that is in file behind it, going in the same direction. So we have objective reality, and now what we're arguing about is the characterization of that event. Was it a pursuit? Was it a chase? Was it a follow? Was it being aware? You say we applaud people who prevent crimes. I kind of only partially agree with that. We applaud people who report crimes. You know, if she's trying to update the us on the position of this, I don't really have a problem with Hannah Payne being passive and observing. And if she's got that vehicle in her field of vision and she's driving safely and she's obeying all the rules of the road and she's just updating us. The problem is that's really not what happened, Drew. At some point, she forced this vehicle to stop where it did stop, and she got out of the car and engaged. What a reasonable person would do would say, hey, this vehicle has completely stalled out. It's on this road. I'm going to return to the scene. There's no reason for her to get out, but we have heard the emotion in her voice saying, I'm not going to allow this. And something caused Hannah Payne to go from a passive observer and a good reporting party to an active participant. And it was that moment that she became culpable for her actions. But I'm letting all the bang out of what's to come later. So I'll shut up and I'll let you get back.
No, you don't need to. No. But also let's remember too, and there's no need to take sides. We know what the jury said. I don't necessarily agree with how it went down, but when the state correction officer from the scene called and said, he's not listening to our commands. I'm trying to tell him to take the keys out of the ignition. Well, perhaps she's following that example. So
yeah, but the correctional officer didn't physically interfere with them. The correctional officer knows that he doesn't have the authority to go over there and yank those keys out of the car or to attempt to arrest him based off those circumstances. The correctional officer knows the best thing he could do is be a good reporting party.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a matter of authority at that point, because if you have reason to believe that somebody is intoxicated and you take the keys out of the car, who's going to hold you liable for that?
No, but who's going to hold you liable for the inaction as well? My point is that you can have a certain amount of authority to intervene in a crime, but you don't have that affirmative responsibility to do that. Hannah Payne's putting that on herself. She's taking this affirmative role in it when no one's forcing her to do that. She has no obligation. She's not sworn to do that. And that's where she's stepping out on a limb that's going to break through.
Okay.
I could say what I think happened, but I can't say for sure.
Well, I'm asking about training, the training that they go through to be able to handle calls like this. In the training, are they taught to, if there's a gap where you hear that somebody continuously tell them, do not chase? Or is the policy to say, well, let's see what happens?
We don't continuously tell them. We tell them, we wait for them to talk back to us. But again, I'm not the one that took the call, so I can't speculate on what's going on in that dispatcher's brain.
And I'm not speculating about that. I'm asking about the training. You said every one of them gets this training. The training, are they taught to continuously tell them not to chase, or you say it once and then you sit back to see what happens?
I'm trying to listen anyway. He's asked this question about.
I've not heard a yes or no.
We're all times. Okay, just be reminded that we have a court order that
Okay, what the judge is reminding both of them is that just you can't talk over each other, because there's a court reporter that's trying to keep track of who's saying what, and that's very annoying, and you're going to get the record wrong if you keep talking over each other. He's just basically saying, I'm not asking for what she's objecting to. I'm asking, all I want is a yes or no question. Do you teach them that in your training? You're here representing their training. And the judge is getting ready to make her ruling on whether he already asked that question and it was adequately answered.
no objections. Yes. Okay, it worked. He officially objection is asked. Is right accurate response.
Your Honor, I have not heard, I'm asking specific yes or no questions. I have not heard a response of yes or no and then an explanation. I've heard someone trying to say speculation, but I'm asking for a yes or no, and I'm not.
Because he wants his gotcha moment, but he doesn't want to. He wants his gotcha. He wants this witness to say, Exactly. But then he doesn't want to follow up. But I don't think that's fair, because the answer, of course, is no, we don't teach them to do that because there's no reason to do that. Or, what everything that I've been saying, don't get to do a power struggle. We don't have the authority and all this. The defense attorney wants this person to agree with them, and then he wants to walk away from the stand, like almost something like you'd see in a TV show, right? Law and Order. Someone goes up there and asks a preposterous and totally out of line question. And before anyone can object or the witness can answer, he just goes withdrawn, just to make that impression on the jury. That's exactly the moment he wants. He wants to create this impression on the jury where the 911 operator had some kind of tacit approval. And the only way he can teach or demonstrate to the jury that the 911 operator had tacit approval for what was going on is with a yes or no answer. If there's any kind of follow-up explanation, it's completely defeated. And frankly, if you're going to call this person to the stand, you're going to cross-examine them, you can't confine them to simply a yes or no. They're going to say what they're going to say, or whatever the judge will allow them to do. But it's especially frustrating that this is a defense attorney is building this house of cards that is taken away with any amount of relevant thought added to it. That all we have to have is a yes or no answer. Drew, go ahead.
He, just playing devil's advocate, he specifically said, I'm not getting a yes or no and then getting an explanation afterwards. I'm just getting the explanation. And he's looking for a yes or no. So what if I told you you're right? That's exactly what he's doing. He is totally trying to get her to commit, whether or not in their training they are told to keep talking to them and keep telling them don't chase, or just to let it go. And yes, that is for the benefit of the jury, but that's his job as a defense attorney. That's exactly what he's there to do. And it's relevant. It's most definitely relevant in this case, because they're trying to set the stage as to why she was in this confrontation in the first place. The state is trying to say that she aggressively followed him. She aggressively cut him off. She aggressively ran towards him, then found herself in a situation. Then she aggressively shot him. And that's not necessarily what happened. If you take the bird's eye view of what happened and you get what he's trying to say, or get where she's coming from, maybe there is a little bit more leeway. Maybe there is a little bit more to the story. And so, yes, you're right. He is looking for that moment, but the moment is relevant to the case.
Drew, you ignorant slut. Go ahead.
She has answered the question several times. So the objections stay.
Okay. All right. So the gap of, say, what I estimated was 37 seconds. During that period of time, you did not hear on this tape her say, do not chase during that gap, correct? And the gap would be from when the 911 was over talking, when she was talking, and you couldn't clearly hear what was being said, but it does appear that she says, I understand. And kind of in the background, the other operator saying, it's not safe to chase him. In that gap from that point on, did you hear the 911 operator say, do not chase, do not chase?
No.
Okay. And you stated earlier, and I heard stated earlier, that only certain people can accept or hold these 911 tapes, correct? In the beginning of your testimony.
In our department, only certain people can access them.
Okay. And who is Tim White?
He used to be the open records, the person that pulled the open record tape audio.
Okay. During this period of time when this audio was taken, was he over all that at that time?
I don't remember.
Have you ever met Tim White?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you stated earlier, too, that it cannot be altered or changed in any form or fashion, correct?
Correct.
Has there ever been an occasion while you've been working there where there's a gap and it could not be explained in the 911 tape? Okay, just a radio silent, or a clip that's missing, or a gap.
I mean, there have been times when the system has failed.
And when the system fails, does it leave a gap in the 911 tape, or how does it fail?
we wouldn't have audio. We wouldn't have an audio recording. I don't work with IT, so I'm not sure how to answer some of these questions.
And I don't want you to go down the road that you're not familiar with, but I'm just asking. So those times have occurred when there's been some kind of
It was a great answer on her part. You testify to what you know, but what he's trying to do, and this is us analyzing. This isn't necessarily something a witness on the stand should do, but what he's trying to do is paint the picture that it's odd that this 37 seconds that is so important to this murder conviction is the only thing missing from this call. But just as you pointed out a minute ago, it's not out of the ordinary at all. We have a mute button. We sit in silence with people for 2-3 hours sometimes, or whatever, or 25 minutes while we're waiting for a deputy to arrive and the person's hidden in the bathtub. Who knows, right?
These are not the Nixon tapes, guy. Okay. I get that he always tried to do is plant reasonable doubt, but yeah, there's a mute button, or we're just listening silently. But yeah, the other thing is that this is not being recorded on the magnetic tape, dude. This is
No. And you're right. I get that, but they're not the Nixon tapes. But you're talking about somebody's freedom for the rest of her natural life. She's 22 years old and she's in prison for the rest of her life because of these tapes.
I support the defense and going after anything and everything that he can for his client. Yeah. I'm just responding simply to the question. Right. Responding to the question that, like, the idea that there's somehow 37 seconds missing because lightning struck the tower. I don't know. I don't know.
Or they were purposefully doctored.
Yes, by impugning the credibility of Mr. Tim White, who isn't here to defend himself. So
that person got an alter to the 911 tape because it was not recorded, correct?
It hasn't been altered. There's been times when the system would malfunction and it wouldn't record anything, but not when somebody was on a phone call.
Okay. And to your knowledge, on that one take, it was no notes that it didn't catch the audio, it didn't record the audio on that second call.
No, everything recorded.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, just one last point.
No questions. Okay, super. Okay.
So she's the state's witness. The state stands up and says, we have no further questioning, because they could rebut. They could go back and ask a few questions to clarify something that would be damaging to the state's case. And this could go on forever and ever and ever. She did such a good job at testifying. The state doesn't need any other clarification. And so she tells the judge, we're done asking her questions. She can step down. And the judge is going one step further and says, are you done with this witness altogether? Meaning she is released she can go home. And she never has to come back. She's not under the court's order. So in other words, if she were a witness in the case and they didn't get to her to the fourth day, she has shown up for day 1, day 2, day 3, unless she's directed otherwise by the state.
Yeah.
So she's the judge is, allowing her to be released altogether. And I think that's it. If I'm not mistaken. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The truth isn't always clean. And in cases like this, it's almost never complete. In this case, one call led to one life lost and one person now sitting in prison for the rest of her life. If this episode made you think differently, or if you caught something others missed, make sure you drop your take in the comments. We'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. And if you're ready for the next part of the story, you can hear Hannah Payne herself take the stand. Click to keep going. You want to hear her side of the story. This is the Comm Center. We tell the stories that others can't.